Hello and welcome to our second webinar designed to support women like you have a truly successful year in 2020. I'm Tracy Ward. This webinar is all about showing you how to stop letting fear get in the way of the results you deserve. Because the reality of it is, say, for example, if you set yourself a brilliant goal that we guided you through in webinar 1, the moment you emotionally engage with that goal, it's likely fear is going to step in. Whenever you make a serious lifestyle change, say, for example, you decide to skip a couple of rungs going up the ladder of success, you decide to leave a job, get a new job, leave a partner, get a new partner, start a business, expand a business. Whenever you make changes like this that are going to take you out of your comfort zone, in steps fear. And it's normal. So what we need to do is we need to know how we work with fear so it doesn't get in the way of the results we deserve. Now, when we look at this slide, I love the question that Sheryl Sandberg asks, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I know I personally have often asked myself this question because it really gives me clarity on the decision of what my intuition wants. You know, I've used it when I decided to leave my husband of 20 years. You know, it wasn't a bad relationship, but it just wasn't great for me. I asked myself, if I didn't have fear, so if I wasn't fearful, how am I going to survive financially? You know, will the children still love me? Will my friends still speak to me? Or where will I live? All the fear and uncertainty around that. When I took that fear away and asked myself, look, if I wasn't fearful about that, what would I do? And I realized the answer was simple. It was time to leave. So asking ourselves that will give us clarity on our decision. Then it's a matter of working out the how. What I know when I coach women, just like these beautiful women up on the screen now, there's a lot of women doing a lot of great things, but I know there's a lot more women that can do even more great things if only they could get a handle on their fear. And like any great idea that comes to fruition, it all starts with our imagination. And what I know to be true about imagination, we all have wonderful imaginations, but most of us really left this wonderful, wonderful tool. We left it way back in primary school. But if you think about all of these great ideas that have been developed over the years, they probably all started with somebody talking to somebody else across a table going, yeah, I wonder what happens to all this food. It seems such a waste. Well, wouldn't it be great if we could have some underwear so, you know, my panty line isn't showing all the time? All of these great ideas come from imagination, and you have wonderful imagination within you, and it's time to listen to that. In the first webinar, which is how to get paid what we're worth, we took your imagination and we got you to start dreaming. And I told you to imagine that I had a magic wand and capture a dream, a goal for your future. And so you all did really well with that. We then went through various exercises to turn your dream into that goal. So we asked you, are you willing? Are you willing to do what it takes so that you can achieve your goal? And you said yes. And we said, are you able? Or is there any physical or mental reason why you can't do this? And the answer is, yeah, this is so doable. And then we showed you how to create a plan for success and get into action, which really completes in turning your dream into a goal. And for many of you, I know you started to get really excited, going, "Oh my goodness, this could be reality." And boom, that's precisely where fear kicks in. And when fear kicks in, along with you going, "This is so exciting," you're also likely to be going, "Oh, but will I still be able to pay the mortgage? But I'm wondering how will this work, because my partner works as well and we've got kids, and I'm not sure that I actually have all the right skills." Now, when this happens, it's really important to understand that you and we all have a choice. We can either step forward into growth, and the types of goals that you set in the first webinar are absolutely growth goals. You will grow as a human being, or you can go back into safety, and it's a choice. The challenge is, as you'll see later on in this webinar, the more we keep on going back into safety, the harder it is in future life to move forward into growth. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, how do we avoid letting fear get in the way of our success? Well, the key really is all about understanding. If you can understand, you can trample fear. And this is the fear process that I'm going to take you through. There's a bondage stage, a reason stage, the terror barrier stage, and then freedom and growth. So let's go through these stages one by one. So let's start off at the bondage stage. Now, I want you to imagine in the bondage stage, say, for example, you're in a dead-end job. Now, you have X-type thoughts in your head. So you think with X-type conditioning. So consciously, you're thinking, look, I don't have any other skills. Look, this job works for me because it's got time flexibility and I can pick up the kids, and I really should be grateful for what I've got. That's conscious thoughts, yeah? And then you've also got X-type feelings in your subconscious. Now, your X-type feelings in your subconscious are, I'm not worthy of another job. I'm not capable of rising above this. Who am I to think that I can get higher promotion or change? So you've got your conscious thoughts, you've got your subconscious feelings, and that internalizes into the physical body that produces X-type behavior and X-type results. In other words, we keep on going to our dead-end job. We don't look for any other jobs. And the result is we're there year in, year out. But in actual fact, we're living in this bondage, but there's a sort of harmony with this bondage. It's not igniting the fear, because our conscious thoughts, our subconscious thoughts, and our physical realm are all connected to the same idea, this X-type thought, which is, I'm in a dead-end job and that's where I deserve to be. Now, imagine you went on webinar 1 and we looked at a why idea. We came up with a why idea, a different idea. And we use our reason, we use our 5 senses. So imagine you're entertaining in your conscious mind the idea to leave your dead-end job and start a new business. Maybe you see a friend at work, she's setting up a new business. Now, admittedly, she doesn't have children and her husband is already in a kick-ass job, so money isn't a problem. But you entertain the idea. You've got an idea, you've got this inkling that this inner you could do so much more, but you're just entertaining the idea in your conscious mind. What happens there? You're playing with it, but you're not emotionally connected. So your subconscious is still attached to the X idea, and your physicality is still behaving attached to the X idea. So there's no fear. What I want you to think about is what happens next when you get emotionally connected with that idea. So imagine you're thinking about leaving work and starting a business, but you've suddenly thought, you know, you've had this in your thoughts for a long time, to leave work and start your own business, open your own cafe. You're getting excited because you're getting rid, no more office politics, no more crappy bosses. You've always wanted to run a cafe. You know, your mum used to run a cafe years ago. You understand running a kitchen. You know how to balance books. And you've always had this burning desire to produce nutritious food that's tasty. After all, if you can convert your husband to eat this nutritious food, just think what you could do to the patrons of your business. You're now really excited. You are emotionally committed to this idea. So it's gone from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind and into your physicality. And that is where the problems begin. Because we've got this X idea and this Y idea fighting in our subconscious mind and fighting in our physical body. So we start to worry and doubt. We start to think, well, what happens if I leave my job? What happens if the cafe doesn't work? I then start to fear, well, maybe if it doesn't work and we have real money problems, will my marriage fall apart? Will I have to go bankrupt? Will that mean my kids will have to go and live with my in-laws and my friends will think that I'm really stupid? And physically, that shows up as anxiety. So either you can't eat, or in my case, when I'm anxious, I overeat, can't sleep, snappy, tired. All emotional hell is breaking out within you because you've got these X and Y ideas in your subconscious and your physicality, and it's causing chaos. That's when you hit the terror barrier, and boom, that's when you go right back to bondage and you just forget your business idea. You put your folder with all your notes and you file it at the back of your filing cabinet in your office. And you know what? That is so normal, and it happens to just about everyone. If you're going to buy your first house, you've got a deposit together, but then you get scared because you think house prices are about to fall, and what happens if you lose your job and you default on your mortgage? We face these terror barriers all the time. But the trouble is, if we keep on going back to bondage, that becomes the habit of our behavior. And it's like a knife to your self-confidence. When I think back when I was younger, was I braver? Oh my goodness, I think the terror barrier, rather than it being a solid brick wall, was, I don't know, a bit of cardboard, bit of paper. I changed jobs at a drop of a hat without another job to go to. I came to Australia on impulse on my own. Not a problem. But what I know to be true for me, and I will consider myself to be a relatively brave woman, but what I know to be true for me, my terror barrier has got thicker. And so it becomes even more important when we come up with an idea, we take action so that we move forward to avoid ourselves being caught in this cycle of continually going back to bondage. And in the case of the story I was telling you, back to that dead-end job again for another year, because you said last year you were going to leave, you didn't, and you said the same the year before. Now, if we look at Henry David Thoreau, who's the American philosopher, he said if a person advances confidently in the direction of their dream and endeavors to live the life they have imagined, they will meet with success unexpected in the common hours. And he's exactly right. And this is what the studies show. And this is so much of the methodology from thinking into results. So what we need to do is we really need to push through that terror barrier. Pushing through that terror barrier will give you freedom and it will give you growth. You will grow as a person. That is so, so important. So let's have a look. Now that you understand the fear process, I'm going to give you some actions that I'd like you to do with your goal outside of the webinar. So please take notes on these actions. And if you haven't got a kick-ass goal for 2020, watch webinar 1 in how to get paid what you're worth. So coming back to Cheryl Sandberg's question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? So I want you to review your goal. Now, the first thing, if your goal isn't exciting you, if you don't read it and go, oh my goodness, I'm going to open a cafe, I'm excited, it's the wrong goal. You've got to feel excitement for that goal. Yeah. And if it isn't scaring you, it's not big enough. Okay. So really important, check in. Do you have the right goal? And if you're going, yes, I've got my goal and I'm terrified, brilliant. This is what you need to do next. The next thing you need to do, whilst you're still thinking, you're thinking about your goal, you've got a picture. So imagine if you were this woman, you wanted to open your own cafe. You can picture you're hanging the sign up on the door saying open. You've got all this wonderful nutritious food, and you know if your husband says this food is good, you know that everyone else will. I want you to list all the benefits for you in achieving this goal. Now, you might be able to list a lot in one go, but you should come back to this because there will be more and more. Start off with the benefits to you and then start to think about the benefits for those around you and how that benefits you. For example, me setting up my own business, I have always passionately felt is a really good modeling for my daughter. Look, it's good modeling for my son as well, but particularly for her as a young woman to see, hey, look, you don't have to conform. And that is great for her. And the benefit for me is I just know she's always going to be on the right path in life, or if not, she's going to have the confidence to change. So I want you to list all the benefits. Be wary in getting other people to help you here. Choose wisely. Really, really avoid the naysayers, the people that are going to say, oh, well, you know, a cafe needs a lot of investment. It's going to be early morning starts. Do you really, how are you going to get the kids to school if you're starting there early? avoid naysayers. They often come from well-meaning people who are very close to you. And at this stage, you don't need to hear them. And just think about some of the really successful companies you know. For example, Netflix. The founders of Netflix were told time and time again with all of their endeavors that it wasn't a great idea. Had they listened to them, we would never have Netflix. So the first thing, now that you've agreed, your goal is great, you're excited and scared, brilliant. Then list, and take maybe a week for this, but 2 or 3 days to list all the brilliant benefits for you achieving that goal. Now, here's the next thing. I want you to imagine, so you've listed all those benefits of that goal, and you shared that goal with somebody who you really trust, who has your best interests at heart, who isn't a naysayer. So for me, I know it would be my godmother, my Aunt Madge. I was born on the same day as her. I always felt connected to her, and she would be somebody who would always, she's sadly no longer alive, but it would always be good to share. If I was to share an idea with her, I know she'd say, good on you, girl, you do it. So what I want you to do next is I want you to write a letter to you from that person. So it's like me imagining my Aunt Madge writing me a letter. I shared with her my great idea a few weeks ago, and I haven't done anything. Right? So I want you to write that letter. Now, I'm smiling at the thought of what my Aunt Madge would write to me, because I'm from Yorkshire, and she was a true northern woman who didn't take any crap. And I imagine the letter from her would be along the lines of, stop messing about, Tracy. It's a blooming good idea. Of course you can do it. And quite frankly, I'm really annoyed that you haven't started it. There wouldn't be any frills with her. But the point is, I want you to write a letter to yourself. Imagine it from somebody who really cares about you and wants you to be successful. What would they say to you to support you? Okay, so let's review what we've got you doing. So you're trampling this fear. You've identified a goal that excites and scares you. You've listed all the benefits to you in you achieving that goal. And now you're writing yourself a letter from somebody who cares, who realizes you haven't yet got into action with that goal, and what they're telling you to do, which is basically stop being so foolish, as my aunt would say, and just get off your backside and do something. So we've got that letter. Now, let's be real. Let's confront your fears head on. When we actually analyze our fears, you'll realize that they actually have no real foundation. They're actually just stories that we tell ourselves. Now, you know, when we think of a child, failing is how we learn. A child, if the goal is to walk, they pick themselves up and they stagger a bit and they fail, they fall over and they go, oh, okay, let's try it again. And that's how they get to success. In fact, failing often leads us to success. And if you think about one of the most successful people in the world, Richard Branson, his current worth is around $4 billion US. If we look at some of his failures, they are classic. Firstly, his Virgin Atlantic Airlines nearly didn't get off the ground because in his initial test flight, they got a flock of birds into the engine that caused extensive damage. The trouble is he didn't have any money for repairs, and he needs to get the repairs to get the plane certified. So it was really back to square one, selling and moving money around in other businesses to get ahead and for it to be the successful airline it is. But Richard Branson also launched Virgin Cola in competition to Coca-Cola. It wasn't different enough. It didn't get anywhere. He had Virgin Cars, a different way to buy cars online, but it wasn't disruptive enough in the marketplace, so that didn't work. And then he had Virgin Brides. Now, this is wedding dresses as opposed to buying brides online, and that didn't work either. But the thing I want you to understand, particularly with the fear of failure, is that firstly, everyone in life fails, but the people that fail the most are likely to be the most successful. And one of the things that I love that was told to my children in primary school, and I wish it was told to my children in senior school, and I wish employees would view this as employers would use this as a good mantra. Fail means first attempt in learning. And when you fail, you learn. And then the next time you do something, it's going to be better. So let's come back. Have a look at your fears, write them down and really look at them. And again, this would be really good to have somebody that can coach or counsel you on this so you can really see them for what they are, which are stories. They are stories in your head, because the reality is the worst that can happen is really never as bad as we think it's going to be. And yet the best that can happen is generally incredible. And that's so, so important. So there you go. Those are our tips for you to really stop you letting fear get in the way of the results you deserve. If you would like a free discovery call with either myself, Tracy Ward, or Adam, please feel free to either click on the button below or email us, because we would love you to put fear out of the way so you can have a truly, truly successful 2020. Enjoy.